Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Framerate is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Framerate is brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 900,000 high-quality video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code FRAMERATE5.
All right. Miss, it's Spock! Whoa. Oh, God! Sir, it's Spock. Do you care?
Not really.
Okay, all right, okay. Let's keep going. No one cares. No one cares. God, look, now there's no one even on the street. They heard you were here. They all left. Miss, it's Spock. Do you care? It's Spock. Okay, wow. Not pleasant. Wasn't a pleasant exchange. Oh, sir, it's Spock. It's Spock. It's Spock from Star Trek.
It's not Spock.
Okay, he said it's not Spock. It's not Spock, he said. Oh. Sir, it's Spock.
How you doing? Good. How are you? Good. Nice to meet you. Big fan. Yeah.
We got someone.
Yeah.
You care about Spock.
Yeah. Well, I liked him on Heroes too.
Oh God! Come on. Let's go.
Oh, you know what it is. It's Framerate. Pretend like you don't know. Welcome to Framerate, episode 125. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood. And you know who that was? That was Spock. That was Spock.
That wasn't Spock.
That was Billy on
Heroes.
the Street. That was Billy on the Street TV doing a segment called It's Spock, Do You Care? Where he just ran around asking random people like, hey, it's Spock, do you care? And like, it was amazing because like only two people were like, oh, it is. And then there was that one guy who was like, that's not Spock. That was my favorite part of that.
Quinto. He only plays Spock. That's actually not Spock.
It's a good, and it's in his defense, it is a legitimate point. It wasn't actually.
Or do you think he means no? Only Leonard Nimoy is Spock.
Maybe he was offering a deep commentary on Zachary Quinto's performance of Spock, which we'll talk about since both of us watched Star Trek Into Darkness. But first, we got to introduce our guest, right?
Welcome to the show, Shannon Morse, a.k.a. Snubs from hack5.org. And, of course, This Week in Tech, where she helps out on Before You Pretty much make Before You Buy happen. Not help out. We don't have any products if it's not for you. So there you go.
It's true. It would completely combust if I wasn't there for it.
It would implode.
I do Before You Buy.
Hey, welcome. How's it going, Shannon?
It's going good. How are you?
Thanks for joining us today.
It's good. And before the show, I made sure to ask Shannon. I was like, so you read the doc? And she's like, I took a look. I'm ready to talk about whatever you got. So I guess that's her way of saying stop talking and jump right into the big story.
The big story.
This just in, the big story.
Hulu, like a painted whore, is getting all kinds of attention in Hollywood. Latest rumors from last week, Wall Street Journal reporting Time Warner Cable has now joined the gang that's standing outside of Hulu's parents' house, waiting to get a chance to talk to her. And also now Reuters reporting today, DirecTV is kicking the tires, to change the metaphor.
Man,
and thinking
this
about
is
making
tough
an offer.
because it's like if your mom's going to marry someone, would you rather it be the drunk or the pedophile? Like, I mean, it's like which one of the old media stalwarts?
Wait, which one's the drunk and which one's the pedophile?
It does whatever. They're interchangeable. They're both creepy, and I don't want my mom being touched by either of them. That's the answer right there.
Well, and some of these stories are speculating what if Time Warner wants to invest in Hulu, but not buy the whole thing. And don't forget, Amazon and Yahoo also rumored to be looking at it. Guggenheim investors and Peter Chernon's company. Peter Chernon founded Hulu, and now he's a former News Corp guy. He's got his own investment company. So it could be a conglomeration. Could we have a scenario where, let's say, Time Warner and DirecTV both invest in Hulu?
Well, so here's the problem. And I don't know if there gets to a point where enough people invest in it that it can actually make its own decisions. But the problem with Hulu right now is that it was the solution that was built to fail, that was owned by old media, it was just an excuse to say that they had something besides YouTube to send people to. But now it's so wildly popular, and of course under Jason Kilar made so many smart decisions that you have this problem where it's like, well, where does it go? It's limited. It's hamstrung by old media. And I'm bummed to hear that the people interested in buying it, like they want to be bought so they can be free to do their thing. But the people who are interested in buying are more old media.
Well, there's Amazon and Yahoo in there too.
I mean, yes, and as we've talked about before, but certainly this latest round of people who say they're interested does not inspire confidence. I mean, the only way this could work out is if all of these old media players bought just enough of YouTube of Hulu that it allowed Hulu the autonomy because nobody owns it, but also was enough of an investment on their part that it was worth it for them to secure the rights for Hulu distribution. Because that, of course,
just being prejudiced. I mean, look at it. The people who should be running Hulu are not the content owners. That's the problem. Who should be running it is distributors. That's Time Warner and DirecTV. Shannon, what do you think? Do you have a preference who should own this?
I'm kind of leaning towards Amazon just because they are much more of a new subscription service with like Amazon Prime. And I would much rather give them my money than Time Warner or DirecTV. I'm a little worried since all these old school cable providers are stretching their pockets for Hulu. I worry that they're going to change Hulu in a way that nobody's going to like. Like they're going to add in, you have to pay for certain subscriptions even more than what's Hulu Plus currently costs or something like that. And I don't know. I'm a little worried.
Trojan horse, though. What if buying Hulu changes the cable companies? Like they buy Hulu and then Hulu infects them with the internet.
Who are you, and what have you done with Tom Merritt? Who is this Pollyanna, stars in his eyes optimist that has replaced my co-host on Frame Rates?
Listen, I can't just agree with everybody all the time, and I think it's quite possible that somebody like, especially Time Warner Cable, which is just a cable company. Remember, don't get confused because they have Warner in the name still. They're not related to Warner Brothers in any way anymore. Right. This could be really good for them in that you get a bunch of talent that knows the internet coming in saying, all right, you guys, let me show you how it's done. This is how you do video on the internet.
Maybe. I mean, it's tough. Let's agree with this. First of all, we don't know what Hulu is going to be like now that Jason Kilar has left. Second of all, we know, or we can suspect, that Hulu will be most what it's meant to be when it owes the least to other people. Would that be fair to say?
What would you guys like to see Hulu do? Like, for instance, myself, I'm not a Hulu Plus subscriber because they have all those ads in Hulu Plus currently. And I would like to see a lot more signing on of different channels that currently aren't available on Hulu. And no matter who they go with, I would like to see a change in that regard.
If Hulu wants to win, what they need to do is utterly replace traditional television. Hulu, its brand is closest to Remember broadcast in the 1980s. And if they can embrace that, if they can make that happen, if they can get NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox to say pretty much anything that comes out, you can either watch it live or the next morning you can get the Hulu version of that experience, they can win. And they will exist as, they'll be hugely popular at first. Their popularity will wane over time as we go and get more distributed, but they will be this vestige of the internet that represents what television used to be like in the 1980s. And they can win with that. They can make a ton of money and do very, very well. However, the problem, of course, is that they have so many different masters to please right now, and they have so many different difficulties with acquiring content that we don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off, as opposed to something like YouTube, which is, kind of this scattershot all over the place. We are television, we're not television, we have new fronts, we have upfronts, that kind of thing.
Hulu's strength is that they have the licensing agreements to show the television shows people want to watch. They have to preserve that advantage somehow. So I think one way they do it is the way you're talking about, which is you continue to preserve those relationships and grow that audience and figure that out. That seems very unlikely, though, if you don't have the content companies owning you. The cable companies are probably the best bet they have to do that kind of deal. Or maybe a Yahoo that's starting to get these kinds of relationships, or maybe an Amazon that has some of these relationships for Amazon Instant Prime, and you fold Hulu into it. But the other way they go is more of the Amazon way, which is you make Hulu a Netflix. You make Hulu a place that actually is just about streaming good stuff anymore all the time, and it's not about actually having recent shows for a catch-up service. Because honestly, I really think the individual networks are going to take over their own catch-up services, and they don't want Hulu to be the place for that anymore.
So here's the question: is could it be that the more I think about it, the more I think that Yahoo, especially a post Marissa Mayer Yahoo, could be the perfect partner for Hulu. I don't think they have any established agreements that are making trouble for them, where like they could be somebody who just wants to manage this content and work out all the agreements for it.
Yeah, but then they have to work them out all from scratch. That's what makes them the most difficult option for Hulu, I think.
Correct. But also that's the same thing that we were saying was a strength for Intel entering the set-top box market. So I don't know if it'll turn out that way. Whereas like stuff like Amazon buying Hulu would be problematic because Amazon is trying to construct their own vertical where they're the ones who create the content.
Hulu isn't a box. Intel's a box saying, ABC, you can have an app on here. CW, you can have an app on here. Hulu is saying, we want to be the app. And I don't think the networks want that anymore. I think they want to control their own application. They want to control their own channels.
Look, I'm fine with either way if you guys would just hurry the hell up and decide.
Figure it out.
Just, right? Yes. It's why are you taking this long? I feel like it's time to move on to another
big story.
Big story, yeah.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Vince Gilligan, creator of Breaking Bad, was giving an interview to Vulture magazine and talking about Netflix, said, I am grateful as hell for binge walking. Of course, he thanked AMC and Sony for taking a gamble on the show in the first place, but he says, I have to be just as grateful for an entirely different company that I have no stake in whatsoever, Netflix. I don't think you'd be sitting here interviewing me if it weren't for Netflix. In its third season, Breaking Bad got this amazing nitrous oxide boost of energy and general public awareness because of Netflix.
If there's anybody right now who can relate 100% with this, it's me, because Scam School was created as a Revision 3 property, and originally, like we're going to talk about this later, but YouTube just hit its 8th anniversary, its 8th birthday, and when Scam School was launched, YouTube was a couple of years old. It was kind of regarded as a piracy haven, that kind of thing, but and so we developed it with Revision 3, and Revision 3 was founded as an alternative to a YouTube environment. But after 4 years of doing Scam School on Revision 3, the YouTube audience has just exploded. There's something about the YouTube alchemy that has made Scam School do very well. And I would imagine that's exactly what Vince Gilligan saw with Netflix handling, acquiring Breaking Bad, and all of a sudden it being available to a whole audience of people who by nature love long-form narrative television shows.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Brian. I completely relate with this too, just in the fact that I'm one of those people that is a binge watcher of Breaking Bad. I finished the entire first, I think 3 or 4 seasons that's available on Netflix right now in probably like 2 weeks. And I was just obsessed with it. And Netflix is the perfect place for Breaking Bad, because this is one of those shows that makes you sit on the edge of your seat at the end of every single episode. And every time you get to the end, you just go, I have to stay up. I have to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning and watch the rest of it, because it's amazing.
Yes.
I think this is going to change the calculus eventually, not right away, not Vince Gilligan saying it in this one interview, but the idea that we need these catch-up services to be able to drive our current episodes forward is independent of whether they're on cable, whether they're on broadcast, whether they're on Hulu, whether they're on your own app. You need to have that catch-up service. And a catch-up service from the network itself isn't as appealing. What Vince Gilligan is saying, I think, is very important here is people on Netflix discovered it on Netflix, got caught up, and then wanted to find the new episodes. Not people heard about Breaking Bad and went and sought it out at the AMC.TV website and wanted to get caught up. Let's move on to another.
You are correct, Tom, as always.
Tuck in your bootstraps. It's yet another big story.
Man, I don't know about you, Tom, but I think that may have been the smoothest transition we've ever had in the history of Frame Rate. That was very well done.
It was like you didn't even know it was happening. I certainly didn't know whether it was going to happen.
In fact, new policy. From now on, whenever we're done with one story, you and I will exchange, and then something will play, and then we'll go on to the next play.
This big story has an implication for esports, for people who like to watch esports, for things like Twitch.tv. It has to do with YouTube, but essentially Nintendo went and filed all their gameplay intellectual property with YouTube's Content ID system. If you don't know YouTube's Content ID system, it's the one that says, I, as a content creator, an NBC, or in this case, a Nintendo, can go say, this is my footage, file it in Content ID, and anytime the YouTube robot finds a match for that footage, it flags it. Then I, as the content owner, can say, you can let that go. That's fine. I don't mind. Or you can let that go, but I want to put ads on it. Or stop that from being shown. I own that, and I don't want anyone else to show it. What happened with Nintendo, they filed their Content ID, and then for some reason, whether it's because that's the default option or they weren't thinking very thoroughly about it, they blocked all footage of Nintendo gameplay on YouTube. A couple of people got upset about it. Nintendo changed their mind, said, okay, wait a minute. We're not going to block all of it. We'll just monetize it. We'll put ads on it. We'll get the money for the ads, but you can still have your gameplay footage on there. A lot of people still upset with that because they're saying, look, we're doing gameplay here. This is a fair use of what is not we're not arguing it's not your intellectual property, but that's how esports is done.
Right. So here is the this is a big story. And I know that before the show, you and I went back and forth about whether or not this was going to derail us or not. So I'll try to keep my point short. I think this is an extraordinarily important story because this is the canary in a coal mine that says that we may be looking at a sea change in what could have been and may still be an emerging a whole genre of entertainment that could happen. I personally, full disclosure, one of my favorite things to do is to play video games and live stream them and share my take on the experience as it goes through. The question is a video game a commodity, a toy, of a physical thing that you could pick up and throw into a movie and do whatever you want with, or is it closer to a piece of music or a music video or whatever where you own the entire thing? And up until this point, I have felt like video game companies have done a very difficult but very smart thing and decide that there is a greater benefit to make a cultural phenomenon out of having other people invest time and effort to watch other people play video games to build up their property. But unfortunately, this is a significant move that Nintendo would develop, that they would become a partner just so they could shut down streams and videos of people. Now, keep in mind, right now, what they want to shut down is like, well, we don't want somebody who might have bought Luigi's Mansion to instead sit and watch a playthrough of Luigi's Mansion and feel like they pretty much got the experience. So we're going to shut that down. But they don't realize that what they're really doing is they are shutting down all the parodies, all the remixes, all of those cultural mashups that we would never have seen without it. The insights, the 21st century version of Red Letter Media reviews. Like, they're shutting all of that down with this move. And I would encourage, video games is the one place that we've seen sensible, cautionary policy up until this point. And I really, really hope that nobody follows Nintendo's example. And I hope what we see are people allowing the marketplace of ideas to figure out where this whole Let's Play movement is headed, and they not just shut it down because they feel like there's a chance to make 25 cents on this kind of thing.
And let's be clear, we don't know what Content ID was filed, how pervasive it really is, but we do know it's significant enough that it's causing an outcry. And it's certainly not the first time gameplay footage has run afoul of Content ID. Red versus Blue had to fight for this back in the Machinima days. And so when Brian says we've reached a reasonable accommodation, it's just that Nintendo's late to the party here. And they're also the biggest foot to come stomping in. Maybe what will happen here is Nintendo will learn the same lessons that everybody else did, which is, okay, you know what? Blizzard learned it's okay to let the machinima for Warcraft happen because that helps Warcraft. All of the other game studios figured out the same thing. And hopefully that's all this is just another one of those eruptions along the way to figuring it out. But I think it also points out that copyright law in the internet age needs entire reform. They're actually starting to hold some hearings about that in Congress with people who are like, yeah, it needs to be written again from the ground up, taking into consideration what's actually happening in the marketplace. And of course, Congress is ignoring them. So that's probably not where that's going to happen.
So real quick, people in the chat room are taking me to task saying like, well, what about in this experience? Like, I watched you play through all of Portal 2 and then I didn't end up buying it. But my position is universally that all of this should be completely unlocked and people should be able to do whatever they want with their video games, whether it's to provide running commentary on the quality of something, tell your own story with it, or there is a significant dollar value between watching a random stranger play through Luigi's Mansion versus a person that you know and feel a personal connection to because they're a celebrity, your favorite celebrity playing that particular game. And I feel like in general, as much as we can possibly, for whatever reason, we've entered an area up until this point where playing games has been off limits for this ridiculous content shutdown manifesto world that we live in. Let's just preserve that world as long as we can before we enter the stupid everybody owns everything and nobody can do nothing hamstringing that we're going to end up with.
And plus, it's very important, I think, when you're saying like, yeah, but if somebody puts up Luigi's Mansion playthrough, then that spoils it for me. Spoilers are not against the law. You might hate them, but somebody printing up the instructions for a walkthrough to Luigi's Mansion is not against the law. So just having the video show you how to play the game is not what's at stake here. What's at stake here is I have used the images that are owned by Nintendo to show something. It's not what they're showing. It's not the purpose for which they are showing. It's the things they are showing, right?
Right.
So even if you're like, Brian shouldn't do this because it spoils Portal, that's neither here nor
irrelevant.
There. What the question
then
is,
they shouldn't watch
is
it.
When Brian's showing you Portal, is it okay for him to show you Portal even though he doesn't own the intellectual property to Portal?
Yeah, over the course of several years just growing up and playing all sorts of video games, one of the main things that I do before I purchase a game is I go online and I, check out my Twitter and see if my friends are talking about it, or I see if there are walkthroughs or some kind of, video review of it available online. And that is a deciding factor on whether or not I'm going to purchase that game. So if you make a good game, you should allow these kind of walkthroughs online because that, at least in my case, it makes me want to purchase the game even more.
Well, and that certainly seems to be the case in the chat room right now. People are saying exactly that. The problem is, of course, the impulse is they're all like, this is our game and you're just showing it and now you're robbing us of a sale, which it's just flat out not true because if
it's
something
not.
explodes.
Every time somebody plays it, it's a different experience every single time. There, especially if you have an open world like Skyrim does. Every single person's experience is completely different. So whether you're watching a walkthrough or not, you might run into a dragon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, 100%.
And the question there, it doesn't matter whether someone's making money showing off the video or not. That's actually pretty irrelevant as far as fair use is concerned. It's, are they undermining the market, right? So if it were shown that, hey, putting these playthrough videos up here actually reduce sales, then that would be a perfectly legitimate reason for Nintendo to say this violates our copyright. But if you say, wait a minute, putting up these playthrough videos actually increased your sales, then you have a defense in court. Problem is, How many of you can afford to go to court to defend your fair use right to put up playthrough videos?
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, let me just say, like, people are like, why are you even worried about this? This is a small test case. They're just barely putting a toe in the water. How people respond to the toe in the water will determine Nintendo's future actions. So personally, I'm not going to speak for the show. I'm not going to speak for you guys, but I hope there is a giant uproar and a major negative backlash to Nintendo as they try to squash the one segment where there's really exciting legal innovation in content creation. If you like Machinima, Machinima is one of the biggest channels because what they've done is they recognized an underserved market. And now, just because people realize that there's a bigger market, it bums me out to hear that Nintendo wants to be, the first to shut this crap down. And that really pisses me off.
They wouldn't be the first, but they'd certainly be the biggest anyway.
Right.
And I think Nintendo's backpedaling really fast. Like, when we're not trying to shut anything down. We love this stuff. We just, we're going to have some ads run on it. And that
we love
that
this stuff. We just want to reserve the right to shut it down at any time.
Right,
Clearly,
exactly.
that's
it's like,
the way
okay, maybe you have an argument to make some money off it, but if it's my fair use show commenting on the video that I want to make money off, now it's a problem.
Correct.
Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Shutterstock.com. They help you avoid a lot of these issues by providing you royalty-free video for your video project. If it doesn't involve capturing your own video gameplay, maybe it involves like needing some stock footage, maybe a cloud scene, some helicopter shots, something like that, whether it's for your website, a publication, an advertisement, a commercial. You can choose from over 900,000 high-quality stock video clips, not just 2D stuff. They have 3D stuff. They have animation and motion graphics. They might even have animation on there. I haven't checked for that.
That's where animals start crying. It's animation. Right. Like, if you need an elephant crying, animation will be the future of that.
It's my obsession. They have clips in a variety of digital formats. Most come in HD. Many contributors are professional filmmakers and animators, so this is high-quality stuff. And not only that, but they review each video individually for content. They look at it and go, wait a minute, this is good. Okay, we're putting it in. And they still add over 10,000 video clips each week, giving you the video content you need. The search tools are out insane. You can search by emotion, by resolution, by contributor, then save your assets to a clip box, access them anytime. They also have a huge image library, vector graphics, icons, infographic templates. You might need that for your video project too. You can choose between individual clips.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just got this telegraph. Somebody just wrote, like, I get it. This is great. I'm a media creator, and I want to make Shutterstock happen and make money for me. However, I want to make sure that frame rate gets a buck out of it. Is there any kind of, like, I don't know, special deal where we could get you credit and get me a discount?
Well, okay, I was just about to explain the pricing, and so that's an interesting point because you can choose between individual clips or video packs, and you can download clips in whatever resolution you want, HD or standard definition, but you don't have to pay anything to try it out, even if you're not a frame rate listener, okay?
What?
No credit card needed. Just start an account. Begin using Shutterstock. Put some stuff in a clip box. You can even share it with friends and say, hey, is this the kind of thing we need for our project? And then, Brian, you know what you get?
What do you get?
Listen close.
I'm
because
listening.
If you use the offer code FrameRate5.
Yes, what do you get?
FrameRate and the number 5. 30% off any of their packages.
That's almost 31%, Tom.
That is more than 29%, Brian.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant to say. More than 29%, Tom.
For 30% off new accounts, use offer code FrameRate5. And we really do thank Shutterstock for their ongoing support of FrameRate. I use the clip stuff all the time. It's good stuff.
You know, the nice thing, and I will say this, like once you buy one of these clips, you can do whatever you want with it and reuse it. So, for example, it was a big deal like figuring out background music for these extra credit episodes that we're doing on scam stuff. But then I was worried about like, oh, do I have to spend $100 every time, every episode? But then like, once we got those assets, then you have them for whatever you need.
That's right. Once you buy a clip, it's yours to keep. Do be careful, though, because Libby just puked with excitement just listening to us talk about it. It's pretty exciting. Let's move on to the slipstream. Apple TV is adding a new app, and it's very interesting. It's the CW. Thankfully, those who watch Vampire Diaries, I don't know, maybe hosts of Bite Club show, will be able to stream those episodes on their Apple TV, Shannon.
Haha. Yes, I'm so excited to watch. I can't wait to watch Vampire Diaries on my Apple TV that I don't own. No, but really, CW, they've been putting their network on everything, and you can always get the TV shows the day after. So they've been very open to the whole streaming thing, and they've been very open to giving you free access where you don't even have to tell anybody that you don't have cable. You don't have to authenticate, and this is excellent. I like CW.
Right on.
I actually thought Arrow was pretty good this season. Just watched the season finale yesterday.
I'll tell you what, man. I'll bet you can't name a single network that's going to provide a more real-time experience than the CW.
ABC.
Wait, that's not the next story.
No,
TBS?
I see what I did there? ABC already has a live streaming app.
Got it.
Planned.
That was crazy. It took me a second.
Well, there are two more, Tom, besides ABC.
I thought there was a total breakdown of communication between us right now. I guess TNT and TBS 24/7 live streaming. Now, so you're saying ABC already does this?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. They announced it. They haven't started it yet, but it's the same deal, which is authentication, right? You authenticate that you are a cable subscriber, and then you can get the live stream of ABC on the ABC app or TBS and TNT in this case.
Yeah. Not a fan of the authentication. The grilling on the HBO Go experience. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, the HBO Go app or desktop experience, it can't remember that it's me. So every time it just greets me with suspicion. And they're like, you supposed to be here, buddy? You got a cable provider? Who's your cable provider?
Somebody? Can I see your ID?
Time Warner. Hang on. Stay right here. I'm going to be. Hey, Time Warner. Time Warner, got a guy. This guy says he knows you. Hold on. Hey, you got a password, Time Warner? Oh, okay. No, you're good. Good. Enjoy Game of Thrones. And it's I just want to punch HBO Go every time. Screw authentication.
Well, and that's what makes the CW app so interesting is Apple and their television, their mythical television, have supposedly been hung up on being able to provide live television without authentication. At least a lot of people have said that. The CW app is just that. It's not live, but it's on demand without authentication. All the rest of these apps, whether they're live or not, HBO Go included, require you to authenticate with a paying provider. So it's really interesting to me that CW just went to Apple and was like, yeah, we'll do it. I know we're part of CBS Inc. and they're all about authentication, but fine. You know what?
I would be fine with a world where everybody appifies their broadcast channels. And there was a CW app that's on your iPhone, that's on your Apple TV, that's on your Android device. There's a NBC app that's on your iPhone. I mean, why? I get it. You want control of your distribution. You want to maintain your vertical. You want to maintain your brand loyalty and your cross-promotion agreements. I get all of that. Just virtualize the channel to a universal app that you don't have to freaking get the fifth degree every time you want to access.
They don't want to give up the retransmission fees that they get from the cable companies. So here, I'm going to tie in a bunch of our stories in one theory of what will happen. Time Warner and DirecTV buy Hulu, rebrand Hulu as the universal authentication app. Hey, Brian Brushwood, are you tired of the struggle of remembering your authentication password all the time? With Hulu and its seamless login, you pay a low price of $9 a month, and you can authenticate on all of these services.
Weirdly, I'm totally okay with this. If what Hulu is selling is remember television in the 1980s, remember that old 3 big network experience, you can have that. Just like Facebook is the de facto login for all these other little tiny apps, you have a Hulu login, and then you're good. I would be okay with that.
Shannon booed, though.
Boo. No, I don't have cable, so any kind of, additional authentication required on Hulu would suck for me.
No, that's just
the best part of Hulu, Shannon, is you don't need to have an old-fashioned cable connection and device. For one low price of $9.99 a month, you'll get access to all the great cable television channels you know and love without needing any additional hardware.
Okay, no additional hardware, but you still have to get a subscription through one of those old school cable guys owning
Did I
Hulu.
say $9.99 a month? I meant $99.99 a month. But still, for one low price.
Oh, dude, we're slipping too far into fantasy land of what we want things to be. I feel like we should move on to the next story.
Yeah, YouTube live streaming now available to channels with over 1,000 subscribers. Previously, you kind of had to be a partner or get special approval. Now, as long as you've got a minimum of 1,000 subscribers, which granted, it's not like Ustream and where anybody can stream or Justin TV, but still, if you've built up a following of 1,000 subscribers, you can do live events now without prior approval.
I think this is a really smart number for them to pick because the difference with Ustream, one of Ustream and Justin.tv's biggest difficulties is the fact that people will log in, they'll create an account, they'll instantly jump on and start streaming illegal content. And 1,000 subscribers is big enough that you obviously care about your position in the YouTube world. And once you care about it, then all of a sudden you're going to bother to like read the restrictions on what you can and can't show on there. That's the biggest.
It's not even just that. I think that's a big part of it. You're right. But it's all kinds of crappy things that could go on there that YouTube doesn't want to have to monitor. Like Content ID might grab a lot of the copyright violation, but what about somebody who's just like doing porn or you know, something weird that is not okay? What YouTube is saying is we got to have a minimum of 1,000 people saying we like what you do. And then we'll let you go. Then we'll trust you to go live.
Yeah.
Although nothing wrong with porn. It's just not what YouTube wants, as far as I know.
What about you, Shannon? Why do you hate porn?
Well, you know, I mean, I don't hate porn, but it's just not something that I watch every day. So anyway, other stories. We actually were one of the partners with the YouTube live streaming, and as long as YouTube doesn't blow up when they allow this to anybody with 1,000 subscribers, I'm good with that.
Yeah, you just don't want like you got yours, you don't want it taken away from you. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, remember when we had that story about almost 1,800 shows disappearing from Netflix, Brian? And
Sure,
we were trying to
totally
keep
remember
people
it
from freaking
because
out.
I remember things. Yeah, photographic memory, Brian. That's what everyone calls me.
Netflix has removed the expiration dates from its API, basically saying, look, we had that stream apocalypse hysteria when people thought 1,800 titles would be disappearing because those dates aren't always accurate. And even when they are accurate, sometimes they're not set in stone. Like they're accurate up until the point that they're not accurate. And sometimes we renew the deals on the day that the show's deal would expire. So we're just not going to deal with that anymore because it's causing more confusion.
This is really weird because I'm conflicted. On the one hand, I hate ever having less information. I feel like I always want more information, not less. But on the flip side, like I experienced real anxiety about the idea that the content that I know – part of what I buy for my $8 a month on Netflix is the confidence of knowing whatever I want, it's in my gigantic library that I pretend that I have. And if there's a deadline on that, it takes something away from me. I don't feel like I have it all the time. And yes, content comes in, comes out, agreements change, all of that stuff. I get all of that. But it's like I'm kind of glad that it's not in my face anymore. Which seems like a very un-Brian thing for me to say.
I'm not. I'm very upset. Well,
really?
When I first read that title, I was like, sweet, no more expiration dates. Yeah, I'm going to be able to watch Dexter again and all this good stuff. And then I read the article and I was like, oh, they're just taking out the expiration dates that you can see as a customer. It doesn't actually mean things won't be expiring. So that kind of sucks. Yeah.
But if those dates are wrong all the time, right? If they're wrong, they'll just cause you to get mad for no reason.
Okay, well, can they just give me like a little thing that says like, oh, these ones are expiring soon, and then just give me like a month of the ones that are expiring in 2 months?
Let me flip it on its ear. Would HBO be a better channel if every time you watched anything or every time you turned on HBO, there was like a timer that said time left until this vanishes from HBO forever? Like, would that make a better experience for you? It's the exact same thing. You would get the exact same information about when their agreement expires, but I don't think it would enhance your enjoyment of the movie.
No, it wouldn't enhance my enjoyment at all, but still, I like having information. I'm a questioner and I like answers.
Well, I like correct answers. I'm with you there. But if Netflix is not lying, they're saying a lot of times this stuff isn't accurate. It says it's going to expire, and then it doesn't end up expiring, and that's confusing for people.
Maybe they should hire somebody to fix it.
Well, maybe they should. Maybe they should hire Aereo. You know, Aereo's coming to Atlanta. Came to Boston last week. Now, if you pre-register, you can get it June 17th in the Atlanta area or June 24th if you have no ability to plan ahead.
I'll tell you what, man, Aereo is changing the face. Like the fact that they're just getting all up in everybody's grill and changing everything. I'll bet that there's not one other story that you could say that was affected by the advance of Aereo.
Yeah, no, I can counter that, but we have to move on to tube tops to do it.
Oh, what a bummer.
Everything old is new again for DirecTV thanks to Aereo. At least I think it's thanks to Aereo. DirecTV, and I don't remember who it was that sent along this multi-channel news story to us, but thank you for that. DirecTV looking to put the off-air antennas back into their set-top boxes, which are mostly DVRs these days. But the idea being you would have the option of not having to pay for local channels and instead get them over the air built into your DirecTV box, so it would work just the same as if you were paying to receive them over satellite.
Dude, this is huge because it's like, first of all, yes, I mean, I think we can agree that this is definitely an Aereo-inspired innovation, right? So what happens is Aereo says, wow, you're giving away the signal for free to everybody. Let us take that free signal, and by following the rules of what it takes to replicate a free signal, offer individual antennas for everybody. Fine, great. Then all of a sudden, you know, the response is, no, that's free, but we would really prefer that you paid for it, even though it's free. And then at this point, like DirecTV is like, yeah, bro, that signal is free. Why are we bouncing that same signal up to a satellite into a dish so that we can have to freaking pay a retransmission fee? Why don't we just
essentially what DirecTV is saying is it used to make sense economically to bounce the signal up because the signal was free, but putting a decent antenna was costly. Now they're saying now that we have to pay retransmission fees because that's changed over the years. Those retransmission fees keep going up and up. Now suddenly it's cheaper to develop a really good antenna to put in the box rather than pay you people.
Yeah, dude, totally. And it's like I don't know. We still don't know where everything's going to end up legally with Aereo, but to see these secondary shockwaves happen is very, very exciting. And I think they're right. I think DirecTV is like, yeah, no, it's totally dumb. You are broadcasting the highest possible quality signal locally, uncompressed over the airwaves. Let's just rock that and not bother to send it up to a satellite in the sky. And good for them for thinking that way.
Dell's Project Ophelia, we heard about it at CES, is coming, and it's that MHL stick, not NHL. It's a very small, much smaller stick than that. That plugs into the back, plugs into the back of a TV that has an MHL port. But if it does, it can turn the TV to a big Android computer. Shannon, that's cool, right? You could just do anything.
Yeah. Dude, this is awesome. I can't wait. And then what I'll do is install Android on it, and then I'll hack it to use it for Ubuntu.
Actually, yeah, because it comes with Android already. So step one,
yes,
you're golden, and you just hack it to run Ubuntu. You can do whatever you want with it, and then put why am I blanking on the media center? XBMC.
Oh yes, XBMC.
Actually, they have XBMC for Android.
Take a look at, Jason, if you can, go ahead and throw up on the screen what this thing looks like. Because if you look at it, it looks like just a USB stick. And you're tempted, like when you look at it, you want to think that's USB. I'm assuming that that's actually HDMI popping out the edge there.
Yes, it is an HDMI form factor. And your television has to support the MHL protocol. But yeah, it is the size of a USB stick, but it goes right into your HDMI port. The idea being that everything that it gets over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth is then streamed into that HDMI port, just like if you had a set-top box plugged into an HDMI port.
It's pretty good, man. Dude, we could talk all about the hacking implications, but I feel like we just got to jump right in and start some film fellow.
So you want to do some film fellow? There's really not much in Film Found, Brian. I don't know why you're so in a hurry. I mean, Star Wars Rebels is a new series coming in 2014.
What?
And we might.
It sounds like you said that there's a new Star Wars series coming to television that takes place back when Star Wars was freaking good, like right before A New Hope. This sounds
apparently
amazing.
it takes place right before A New Hope. It's coming in fall 2014, and they're going to like animate the art of Ralph McQuarrie or something.
Hold on. So you're saying that they'll take the style that we associate with the best episodes of Star Wars and make them 3D, place a world in which you have the Imperial regime bearing down, like basically, you telling me there's a TV series that's about everything that we love about Star Wars with none of the stuff we hate coming soon? This is amazing.
Well, I guess. I mean, if you like the fact that McQuarrie's art is beautiful and seems to be sort of an older version of what we end up seeing in the movies, and of course this is going to be set before the movies, so that would make perfect sense. I guess you might get excited about it.
Just a little bit.
Even more.
I don't know if you like Simon Kinberg, but he's apparently the writer for it. I mean, he did X-Men, First Class, Sherlock Holmes, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I don't know.
Have you ever, like, do you have any martial arts training? Because
I do.
if we were in the same room right now, I would be trying to punch you for talking the way you're talking, even as a joke.
How did you do that? Also, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers rumored, according to Latino Review, to be cast for Star Wars Episode 7.
I'm so okay with this.
He's in Dracula. He's in that Dracula series that's coming out in the fall, though. How can they spare him for Star Wars?
I don't know, and I don't care because he's cute.
Shannon, I did an appearance on the Star Wars Report podcast where my commitment to Sparkle Motion was called into question. Like it was like you know, do you really like Star Wars? You're very vocal about hating the prequels and so on. Like, where are you in the Star Wars commitment? Like, is it just is it roughly the same as Doctor Who? Like, what does it matter? It's one space thing versus another, or does it mean something deep to you?
Doctor Who is more hardcore for me. Star Wars is definitely, it's the show that I watched back in the day with my little brother, but I need to catch up on it.
Well, I hope this will change that because you kind of hurt my heart saying those things that you just said.
Star Wars Rebels coming fall 2014. Actually, watch the video that StarWars.com put out. It's just an interview video, but it's got a lot of nice little tidbits in there, and they're pretty enthusiastic about it, so it's kind of infectious. Upstream Color is a movie that hit theaters, was playing in theaters for a month, and now is available on iTunes, even though it's still playing in theaters. This is something that major motion picture companies cannot get theater owners to agree to.
Now, part of the reason, if you read this article, and the exact article is on The Verge, just go and search for Upstream Color. Full disclosure, I freaking loved this movie, and I loved my experience of being able to watch it at home. I did not hesitate for 1 second to pay $20 for the high-quality version that we were able to watch.
You should mention it's Shane Carruth?
Shane Carruth, the guy who did Primer. Did this. Now, Primer was made for about $7,000. They have not disclosed how much money it took to make Upstream Color, but in this article on The Verge, they say that they suspect it's close to $100,000. And this does not look like a $100,000 movie. It is amazing. I loved it, and the longer I think about it, the more wrapped up I get in it. I love the acting in it. I love the idea of it being so far out there. It's uber dense. It's the kind of thing that you can see being noted to death in a traditional Hollywood environment. It is about two people who deal with it doesn't matter. Whatever I was about to say was going to be a spoiler, and I want to preserve it for you. It's an amazing movie. And the fact that they own everything and the fact that they only spent, let's say, 6 figures to make this happen puts them in an extraordinary position to set up a long-term stream of income from this thing. And it's like, I'm totally thrilled. It's a very internet. If you like frame rate, if nothing else, you will love what this movie means to the frame rate experience. And I hope that you guys will buy it at home.
I think what's most interesting about this, they've grossed just below $500,000 in gross box office revenue, which if they only spent $100,000 means they've made money off of it probably, although you have to give a big cut of that to the theater owners. And they did it without signing a deal with Landmark Theaters, because the big theater chains say we will not do anything unless you give us a 90-day exclusive. Whether the movie stays in the theater for 90 days or not doesn't matter. 90-day exclusive for everything. And so what Upstream Colors said was, no, we're giving you a 30-day exclusive, and then it goes to iTunes because that's valuable to us. And Landmark, if you don't want to agree to that, then you don't have to run the movie. And they didn't. Landmark refused to run the movie, but they still made $500,000 just going to art studios and art theaters, who all said, look, we don't care if it's on iTunes or not. 30 days exclusive is plenty for us. We're going to run it once. Over a weekend. We're going to get people who want to see it in our theater because they love our theater, and then go do whatever you want with it. And like Brian said, now it exists in all of these areas. iTunes, it can exist on Netflix, it can exist in all of these independent areas for 20 or 30 years. And that's more important to Carruth than whether he had to give a 90-day exclusive or not.
So let me say real quick, if I can take the advocacy position again, like
I thought you already did.
No. Wait, let me be clearer, because apparently I wasn't, according to the comments here. If what you like is high-quality content made in an unconventional way that is designed completely platform agnostic, they're doing everything right. And it's a good movie on top of everything. But specifically, doggone it, somebody said something, and then I can't remember how to respond to it. Yes. You were saying, Tom, Netflix or Amazon, iTunes, I didn't do any of those. When you go to the site and you buy it, they stream it for you right there from the site instantly. And then also you could choose your level of download, whether it's anything from, up to, low res to 720p to full on 1080p Blu-ray style.
On DRM?
Yes, completely on DRM.
That's brilliant. That's exactly what they should do. Make it available in every possible way that you would possibly want it. So if you're Brian and you want to have it unrestricted and just stream from the website, great. If you're an iTunes person who's like, I have to have it in iTunes because everything's in iTunes, you got that too. Dude.
Yep.
However
totally.
You want. Let's talk Comedy Week is happening at YouTube, and talk about your full disclosure. My wife actually in charge of the YouTube LA aspect of Comedy Week, not the whole thing, but she's been working her little fingers to the bone on all of this. Yesterday was the big live streaming Comedy Week kickoff, which I just didn't like.
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. And first of all, let's make it very clear that you're not saying you don't like your wife, Eileen. You're saying that you didn't like
the part that my wife directly worked on, I thought was really funny.
Good. First of all, there's a billion things they're doing right by doing this. YouTube, it's one of its core strengths is comedy, and it's what does it say? Like 6 of its top 10 channels are comedy channels. So yes, you should have a comedy festival, and you should celebrate this thing. And in fact, is what you and I talked about before the show privileged, Tom? Can you say what they're getting ready to work on in a few months?
I think, you know what? I think that's public knowledge, or I wouldn't know about it. I mean, there's kind of a standing rule in the house that I'm not supposed to know about anything that I can't talk about.
Okay.
So as far as I know, they're doing all kinds of these big type of events. And I know the Nerdist channel is planning something for later in the summer in cooperation. For instance, Comedy Week is in cooperation with the Jash channel, which is Sarah Silverman, Tim and Scott, Michael Cera, a bunch of comedians getting together to make their own channel. So the Nerdist has got a big geeky thing happening later this summer.
Right. So the point is like they've acknowledged that one of their early strengths is comedy, and so they're trying to embrace that and go forward. This is a smart thing for them to do. We have talked about it on the show how as eye-rolling as award ceremonies might be, they are important to legitimize a new platform over an old platform. Likewise, the fact that they are celebrating YouTube celebrities who have made their name as being YouTube comedians is good. This is great.
I'm sorry, Tim and Eric. I just had to fix that right away.
That's fine. Whatever. Good old Tim and Scott. They're my favorite show.
Tim
on
Scott
the,
was a pitcher for the Astros in the 80s.
Yes, and he had a hilarious show on Cartoon Network, if I remember correctly. The important thing is that they're making the right decision to do this. However, having watched it, and I've only watched like a couple of things, man, is it self-congratulatory and like, man, like I wish there was a joke beyond, look, it's Freddie Wong, because like Freddie Wong is famous for being Freddie Wong, and here he is.
And here's the thing. I felt like the problem with the live show yesterday was the opposite. It was, here's big name stand-up guy. Here's Norm Macdonald hosting our pre-show who doesn't really seem to understand what's going on here. Instead of celebrating the YouTube comedians. And they did some of that, and I thought that's where it worked better. But it is an interesting line to walk where the one you're talking about is hilarious to the big YouTube fans, right? Because they're like, it's Freddie Wong, OMG, right? But for those of us who are like, well, I know who Freddie Wong is, but I'm not a big fan, it doesn't have that same impact. So it's hard to translate from inside the bubble, I feel like.
Yeah, it was very much, and in many ways, this seems like a rejection of what YouTube has done in the past, where it's like a year ago, YouTube announced all of their big investments on high quality production entertainment to, show how disruptive they are to cable television. And this year, it's very much turning all of that focus inward, where they're just like, well, we already know we have these hits, so let's just, show the hell out of these hits.
Well, and this is produced by Jash. So Jash is very much about, we're no rules now because we're on YouTube and we can do whatever we want. And I feel like that's where that message is coming from. Obviously, it's got the influence of YouTube saying, hey, you should use these guys because they're really popular, et cetera, et cetera. But,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's going on all week. There'll be new stuff all week, so maybe there'll be more stuff that'll catch your eye. Shannon, have you watched any of it?
No, I haven't, unfortunately, but I'm really looking forward to checking it out because I feel like a lot of the comedy that's on YouTube currently, I can really relate to, and it seems a lot more natural.
So there you go. See, Shannon's probably more in the audience. It's just old farts like me and Brian that don't get it.
Yeah, no, she's too young. Stop being so young, Shannon, please.
God, I'm sorry. Oh,
hurry up and get old so we can understand you.
Will do.
I don't understand why Amazon killed Zombieland, but I am less confused than Rhett Reese of Zombieland, who tweeted, I'll never understand the vehement hate the pilot received from diehard Zombieland fans. You guys successfully hated it out of existence because it's not getting picked up. Although Amazon is picking up Alpha House, starring John Goodman, and Betas, which is the Silicon Valley comedy.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, this
That's
is
all
not,
you got, huh?
well, I mean, it's not the end-all, be-all of what might have been. They still may pick up. And to be honest, the only one of these that I watched was the Onion one, and I kind of would like to see that come back. But it's like if this is all they pick, then at least what we've seen was an extraordinarily honest version of the mid-season pilot phenomenon. And I'm kind of cool with the above boardness across, they're like, here's 12 episodes. Which do you like? Because guess what? Those will be the only ones that go anywhere. And then, based on that feedback, go on.
Finally, what I think may be the best movie I see all summer. Not sure yet because I haven't seen it. But a full-length trailer for Europa Report is now out. This is going direct to the iTunes store on June 27th and then hits theaters on August 2nd. But play a little bit of this trailer because
take a look at this.
This is insane.
Are we alone? An engrossing, riveting film.
That's a great.
Our craft was heading for a moon of Jupiter, known as Europa.
Yeah, my boy's gonna be 6 when I see him again.
He's gonna be proud of you.
Oxygen is flowing, we're good.
Commencing egress. This never gets old.
Prep for orbital transfer. We are clear of Jupiter's orbit.
Pitching for power descent. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Here we go.
I can't believe I'm here. This is incredible.
I best hope
This is serious sci-fi that's going to happen. It's something that Hollywood won't take a flyer on anymore. Shannon, does this intrigue you?
Oh, I can't wait to see this. This looks so good. I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey years ago, and I fell in love with the movie. I thought it was brilliantly done, and it's a classic. It truly is. And this movie, I don't know if it has the potential to be a classic like Space Odyssey was, but it looks really thrilling. It looks very realistic, and I can't wait to see it.
So the thing that really struck me is this reminded me of, if you read a lot of books, what I felt in Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, where you had science fiction kind of without, it was just science set in a fictional world. Like everything was hyper realistic, and it was a very measured take on how we might get to this next level. That's what this looks like it could do in the movie world, which is awesome. However, I'm just irrationally scared and bummed that it's going to iTunes first, because going straight to iTunes is the direct to DVD of the 21st century, you know?
Yeah, you have a good point, Brian. Well, part of me hopes that it does come directly to us just because I want to see it as soon as possible, and I may not be able to go to the theater all the time. But the other part of me is like, yes, I want to see people watch this and, enjoy it for its greatness, not just look for aliens the entire time and be like, oh, where's the action?
Right.
All right, let's check in on the summer movie draft. Star Trek Into Darkness made $84 million in its first weekend out. Not nearly competitive with Iron Man 3, although decent for a first weekend.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. It's there's no lie that the numbers that they got were a disappointment to the powers that be. They wanted more for sure. I can't speak about any of this without skewing things because I own Iron Man 3 and Oblivion. Nothing but happy that Scott Johnson is taking it in the face. But Star Trek Into Darkness, I do feel like that poor movie deserved more than it got.
I disagree with you that this is a disappointment. I think what it is exactly what you'd expect. And unfortunately, we're in a situation in Hollywood like we are in the stock market, which is if you don't exceed expectations, it's seen as a disappointment. So I get what you're saying, which is like, oh, 84 million, that's perfectly understandable. Why is it perfectly understandable? We wanted it to kill. We wanted it to go way beyond what people would expect. And so 84 million is going to be great. What I think is the oddest thing about it is that right now, you look at The Great Gatsby, which has been out for an extra week, and it's 90 million. You look at Oblivion, it's 85 million. So Star Trek Into Darkness after the first weekend looks like it's tied. I think it's going to have a great second weekend. Obviously not 85 million, but it'll push it over 100 million, and then it will look more respectable after that. But definitely not the kind of thing that will threaten your crown, Mr. 422 million. I'll give you that.
Dude, and unfortunately, this is the awkward position I'm in where it's like, even though I have 422 million, it's not nearly enough for how much I've spent right now. I find myself weirdly I need Iron Man to squeeze out another 100 million to have a chance at winning this thing. But regardless, Shannon, did you see Star Trek Into Darkness?
Yes, of course I did. And it was awesome.
All right, we'll talk about it during the spoiler zone. I guess we'll hold off on that. Anything else you want to say about the draft?
Just what's coming out this week is a Justin Robert Young weekend, Epic, and Fast and Furious 6. Fast and Furious 6 should probably be a moneymaker. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see if Fast 6 matches Star Trek Into Darkness, which it possibly could.
Oh, dude, I'm certain it will. In fact, I did Fast 5 2 years ago, and it was one of my best buys of the entire season. It's what kept me from being in last place for sure. But Justin has both Epic and Fast and Furious 6 back to back, which means that half of his entire budget, $51 of his 100, are all on this one weekend. So this really is kind of a make or break time for Justin.
Let's talk about what we're watching. Watching. Well, Brian already spoiled the fact that you watched Star Trek Into Darkness, and we are going to talk about that in the spoiler zone. But any non-spoilery thoughts about that or anything else you're watching, Shannon?
Yeah, sure. My name is Shannon, not you, Brian. So I am watching, I'm catching up on Mad Men and Doctor Who right now. I'm currently on season 2 of Mad Men in season 3 during David Tennant on Doctor Who, which I'm obsessed with. I'm also watching Castle, Bones, and Vampire Diaries. I'm all caught up with those. Have to watch Vampire Diaries for our vampire show, Fight Club show. Also, Game of Thrones, of course. Although I'm a couple of episodes behind on that one because I don't have HBO, so I do what I can. And Star Trek, of course.
So
I don't know.
Let me real quick. I want to say the non-spoilery part of my Star Trek experience, and maybe it's just me, but like all through Star Trek Into Darkness, I felt like I should be enjoying it more than I was, and they did everything. Let me state unequivocally, this is probably my fault. Somehow I watched it wrong. Or experienced it wrong or whatever, but they did everything right, and yet I never felt like I was inside that roller coaster. I felt like I was outside.
I don't know. You spent the first month leading up to the release going like, I don't know if I'm going to like this very much. Everybody's talking about Star Wars. I don't know if this is going to live up to expectations. I can't imagine why you would have had that mindset.
But I didn't go into it with that. I wanted to love it, and
you did go into
fan
that with
service.
it,
the fan service that they did was extraordinary. But the problem was every time you would have one of these revelations, I saw it coming 30 seconds in advance, and I was really bummed. Weirdly, I'm going to go watch it again tomorrow, and I suspect I'll like it much more tomorrow because there won't be any pretense of a mental chess match between me and the producers of it. And like the fact that I've already seen it.
My one-line review that's non-spoilery, half amazing, half silly, almost stupid, all fun. And I'll save the rest of it for afterwards. Anything else?
I guess that's the other thing. One more comment that's non-spoilery is everything up until Benedict Cumberbatch I thought was silly. The moment he shows up, electric from then on forward. It was amazing. I'm watching what else? Game of Thrones. We'll talk about in the spoiler zone. And last night, along with Ryan Connolly of Film Riot fame, we may have spent until 3 a.m. watching Red Letter Media reviews from Titanic, Avatar, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They're just amazing. It's just the best thing. If you want perfect synthesis and awesome evaluations, you can't do better than Red Letter Media. They're amazing.
I'm continuing to enjoy Defiance. I think it gets better pretty much every week. I thought Arrow wrapped up very strong. It got a little weak towards the end of the season, but I'm looking forward to season 2. Game of Thrones, Mad Men, obviously still. We'll talk about some of that in the spoiler zone. Doctor Who finale I watched twice. There are huge problems with the plot, and I didn't freaking care. It was a joyride. I loved every second of it. And I also started catching up on Warehouse 13. I'd fallen behind on that. And man, am I glad I did. I'm forgot how much I love those characters. And I'm really sad that they just announced that next season will be the last season for that show. But a good show nonetheless. Let's get a couple of feedbacks before we squeeze into the spoiler zone.
Back with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate, oh yeah.
From John, listening to episode 124, says, I have to agree with Tom on Ender's Game. Spoiling the surprise from the very beginning alters the whole movie. I wonder if it is going to be like Will Smith's iRobot. To me, at least, it would have been a more enjoyable film if it had a different title. With a different title, the reference to the book would have given the film an added dimension. With the title, I just kept being annoyed. Clearly, the writers seem to have skimmed the cliff notes for Asimov's iRobot. On the other hand, could we be the victim of a company making the trailer spoiling the film? The Sixth Sense was kind of spoiled for me when the person at the video store told me there was a twist. I kept looking for where a twist might come, but since I always thought something, it just created a distraction. And what he says is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. The only way to know for sure is to see the film. Blade Runner wasn't Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, not to mention Total Recall wasn't We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
I thought those were extraordinary points. And I actually suspect he's 100% right. I think that not that we haven't seen Ender's Game, so we don't know whether it deserves the title or not, but certainly I think iRobot would have been a better movie if it didn't set up the expectation that we were going to get a direct, translation of iRobot.
Yeah, interesting thought. Maybe Ender's Game would have been the same, but then you want the marketing punch of Asimov's iRobot, Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game.
Yeah, we got somebody, Ryan Murphy, wanted us to know about Love the Show and picked up some great tips on what to watch. I can't believe, however, that you haven't mentioned Rectify on the Sundance Channel. Anybody seen it? It's awesome. I have not seen it. Have you, Tom?
Nope.
Shannon?
Nope. I don't know.
Well,
nope.
We'll check it out. Hopefully it's available online.
And then Mike wanted to know about video quality on YouTube. He says he's on Fios, has plenty of bandwidth. Sometimes videos lag. Sometimes they won't load at certain resolutions. There's buffering. I'm not paying a monthly sub for that kind of service. Also, YouTube TV apps perform even worse. That's where I want to watch. There are lots of good resources for this online. If you look for solve YouTube streaming problems, a lot of times the culprit is the Flash plugin on Chrome. If you switch to the Adobe Flash program and block the Chrome one, sometimes that helps. Sometimes the opposite is recommended, but it's usually the other way around. And there are also some ISPs, although Verizon is not usually listed as one of them, that throttle YouTube videos. And so if you do some local host manipulation or VPNing, sometimes that'll solve it.
Yeah, specifically, not so much that they throttle it, but what they do is they forward to specific servers that are internal that conserve more bandwidth as they host it in their way.
We are going to have a spoiler zone in just a few minutes, so those of you who don't want to be spoiled, get the crap out of here. Shannon Morse, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hack5.org, HAK5.org is the place to go to see Shannon co-hosting with Darren Kitchen. And, of course, you can also watch Before You Buy, which is Shannon's production right here on Twit. Don't miss it. You can find us at twit.tv/FR. Email us, framerate@twit.tv. And find us live on Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on live.twit.tv. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Silent Breed is people!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the spoiler zone. What are we going to before? Okay, if you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to know what you don't want to be spoiled on. We're going to talk Game of Thrones?
Sure. I feel like we should start with Star Trek.
Well, I'm just saying we're going to talk about Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
Okay, we're going to talk about Star Trek Into Darkness.
Right. That's it.
Shannon, you've seen both of those?
I've seen Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm a couple of episodes behind on Game of Thrones.
Okay,
right,
so
we'll kick you out.
And that's it, right? I'm not missing anything.
Yeah. No.
All right, so let's start with Star Trek Into Darkness. Spoiler zone starts now.
Okay, so what I was trying to say about the whole being on the outside.
I'm sorry, I just had to get it out of my system.
First of all, can we be done with making it clear to the audience that we're just redoing other stuff? Like can we, after this movie, can we have a new Star Trek movie? Is that okay?
I honestly feel like that's what they set up. That they were basically tying up all the loose ends and saying, all right, now they're going on the 5-year mission. Now, there's not any search for Spock in the offing. Right. We've tied all that stuff up, other than Carol Marcus being on the ship. But here we go.
By the way, how about that utterly gratuitous and nonsensical Carol Marcus in her underwear scene? Be like, hold on, but seriously, look the other way. It's me in my underwear. Why are you looking at me? I'm totally in my underwear.
It may have been gratuitous in showing out her as much of her, possibly, but if they're following the storyline, Kirk and Carol have a son, so you do need to establish his romantic interest in her.
Yes. Okay. All right. Sure.
Well, they kind of did that at the end when she, gave him that little winky face, and she was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm happy to be here on the ship with you for 5 years."
Well, yeah. Okay. So you want to show him flirting away earlier in the show.
So the whole opening scene just felt rubbery to me and silly in a way that I didn't like with Star Trek. Star Trek has always been regarded as the harder of between Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Trek is always the harder science fiction. And the whole conceit about these space boats were that creating these things were so, they're so structurally delicate that you had to build them in space and then make them fly off or whatever. But then this business is like the opening scene. It's like it's underground, or I'm sorry, underwater, in the most hostile environment. It just flies over a volcano and flies off like it was magic. It was magic, and I didn't like seeing magic in a Star Trek thing. So whatever.
What was magic? What was magic about it?
Dude, the whole, like, they build these gigantic craft in space because they're so big.
Wait a minute. Aren't you the guy who made fun of me for being upset that they showed the Enterprise on the ground in the first movie?
Yes. And now I'm that guy. Look, I don't understand. Yes, whatever. If you're accusing me of hypocrisy, you're probably right. How about that?
I don't know what I'm accusing you of. Because it didn't bother. You know why it didn't bother me at all? Because they'd showed the Enterprise on the ground in the first movie. I was like, well, they got away with that. So sure, it can be in the bottom of the ocean. Why not? If it can be on the ground, it can be in the ocean.
All right. If we're going to be like petty while we're at it, that oyster dude, friend of Scotty, can't put on that shirt. His head is too wide to fit through the hole that his shirt was on.
Totally right.
Maybe it's stretchy cotton.
You can't know.
How do you know it's not stretchy cotton?
Stretchy.
You can't know. He can't wear that. Okay, so here's the thing. Like at every moment, and now that we're in the spoiler zone, let me full on say it was amazing that they kept it a secret that the bad guy was Khan. Like for folks like you and me, and I don't know if any of you guys saw it leaked somewhere else, but the fact that they could present the movie to us and make that an actual moment where you're like, holy crap balls, they did it. They pulled off.
I remember everyone was saying Cumberbatch must be Khan. Look at this scene. This must be Khan. And then they came out and was like, his character's name is John Harrison. My character's name is John Harrison.
And we bought it. It was a con job that was pulled on all of us. And it was the long con, and then we totally got fooled. And that was great, right? And it was like, that was absolutely amazing. But dang it, it's like, I need to watch it again because the whole time I felt outside of it, and I'm bummed about that. I should have. Okay, here's
Rich
what it
says
was.
IMDb called Cumberbatch Khan months ago. I didn't hear anything about that. I know they list as it now, but I didn't hear anything before the movie about that.
It's
I
like
saw it on Twitter eventually, but it wasn't bothering me.
It's like having sex with a supermodel. You're like, you're perfect. You're everything I asked for. You're everything I thought I wanted. I'm like, why aren't you funny? I just want, why can't you be more like Bonnie, my wife? It's like, it's like there was something missed in that whole thing, is what I'm saying.
I think you set yourself up for that, but maybe not.
Maybe so. I'll be the first to admit. I'm going to go watch it again just to make sure.
Because I watched it, and I had seen the first 9 minutes before The Hobbit. So I knew what was coming, and I still love seeing it again. I thought that was just a great, breakneck pace introduction. This is the crew out doing missions. I loved that. I thought it was tight. I thought Cumberbatch was threatening, and I thought everything was great until they got to the revelation that he's Khan. And I love that part. I was like, oh, my gosh, they totally played me. But after that, I felt like it got a little silly. And I kind of liked the silly in some ways because I'm like,
you and I have inverse things. Like I thought it was silly up until that moment. That's
I'm like,
crazy.
This is a send up of Wrath of Khan, and I like what they're doing with it. I like the flip flop. I like Spock yelling Khan. Spock has the fight. Like this is interesting, but I didn't think it was good of a movie
real quick though,
as it was in the first half. I thought the first half was tight and suspenseful and dramatic and interesting, and the second half was all fan service and fun as the first half was, but kind of silly.
But here's what's great about the second half is they answered the biggest question. Because you remember as we watched the early, teasers and leaks or whatever, when we talked about like the idea of them riffing on the whole, somebody dying and up on the glass and so on. Like my question was, with the Wrath of Khan, the original, it was the culmination of like a 30-year friendship. So it meant an awful lot to have Spock die. I'm like, I can't see how they would do that with the fact that Spock and Kirk barely like each other by the end of the first movie. They actually handled it brilliantly because they reframed everything as this is not the culmination of a 30-year friendship. This is the realization that they're friends. This is the beginning of a 30-year friendship. And the fact that they did a great job of recasting all that. And I thought that was actually excellent.
Shannon, it seems like Brian and I are kind of on opposite sides of the coin here for why we liked or disliked things. What about you?
Well, unfortunately, I really don't remember Wrath of Khan because it was, so long ago, and I was such a little kid when I watched it the first
and you haven't
Screw
ever
that.
watched
It's only one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. Certainly the greatest submarine battle in all of sci-fi history. Go ahead.
But so this was kind of like coming into it with kind of a new vision for me. So when I went to go see the movie, I didn't expect anything. I didn't, go in expecting any kind of relationships to evolve during the movie. So for me, it was just fun and games. I really enjoyed the humor throughout the movie. I really liked some of the throwbacks, like they had the little Tribble, which was awesome. I love that. And just all the humor was really fun for me. And it was fun for the entire audience, too. It wasn't just me.
Okay, real quick. Now, I mean, you, I assume, are a pretty good match for the savviness of most of the audience going to see this. One of the problems with the whole, did any of us buy, they spent 5 full minutes showing us Kirk becoming mature and sacrificing himself to save his ship.
Yeah.
Did any of us, for any amount of time, ever believe that he was actually dead? I mean, that's
no.
Did any of us not instantly think, oh, Khan's blood is magic, so I'm sure they'll do something with that?
No.
He's fine. I mean, it's Kirk, so.
Yeah.
There's that, right? But they also telegraphed it so far in advance, well, I'm going to inject this blood in the Tribble and see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
All right,
so
Eileen and I turned to each other and went, Tribble blood.
Yep. It was no surprise at the end how they were going to save Kirk. It was just like, oh, yeah, they're going to use that. Okay, I already figured that one out. And I'm not the kind of person who usually gets surprise moments like that. So for me to figure that out, I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. All right, look, you want to move on?
Did you like or dislike the video, the FaceTime call to Nimoy from the Enterprise?
It was okay, I guess. I mean, it was just kind of I think it was just a throwaway to have Nimoy in the movie, really.
It was gratuitous. It was gratuitous, and it was unnecessary.
I liked it in concept. I was like, oh, cool, we get to see Leonard again. I love the crossing, but I didn't feel like the scene itself had any value whatsoever.
It didn't, because he didn't give Spock an answer, so it's just like, well,
I mean, he did. We just didn't see it, and presumably his answer was, we deceived him, and that's what mattered, because that's what happened in the Wrath of Khan is they deceived him, saying we're sending the code, and instead they took over the Reliant and did the whole thing. So
what you'll need to do is spend $2.99 to watch Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II.
I'll tell you what, man. Here's the challenge. Let me offer this. Let me offer the frame rate challenge. Somewhere out there is somebody who saw this movie and liked it a lot. Whoever you are, I challenge you to go and watch The Wrath of Khan and write us at fr@twit.tv and give us an analysis of somebody from the outside just coming in, framerate@twit.tv. Just friggin' tell us which is better, full stop, from the outside, the original or this.
Well done. Good challenge. I like that. Any last thoughts before we let you go, Shannon? Because we're going to move into Game of Thrones territory.
We're going to talk the hell out of Game of Thrones.
Oh, I hate you guys so much. I'm so jealous. Don't worry.
Seriously. Okay.
Did you
Tyrion
say
turning into a seriously. Tyrion turning into a dinosaur. Was that like too much in that recent episode?
I thought they telegraphed that early on with the dinosaur blood.
Yeah, seriously. And to make him a velociraptor instead of a T-Rex, I thought was kind of,
Why did it have to be a short velociraptor, too? I mean, he's a dinosaur now. Couldn't he be big?
He's still going to lose from the dragons. Dinosaurs.
All right, take care, Shannon. Great seeing you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.
All right.
Okay.
Let us know when it's safe.
Game of Thrones currently being spoiled.
Yes, it's safe.
So audio listeners, you just got to forward to this point.
We should have a sound for audio listeners who are like fast forwarding. That's like.
There you go. That's the sound.
Perfect.
So Game of Thrones, I thought this was one of the most subtle, but in some ways had the best performances of any episode this season.
Here's the thing. 3 episodes back, I said, did anyone else notice that like kind of nothing happened this episode? And that was just me. Then like last week, you and I were in agreement. I was like, did you kind of notice that nothing happened this week? And it's all getting ready to get ready? And you're like, yeah. But we both agreed that this meant that like something was getting ready to happen. And then last night, I talked to Justin Robert Young, and Justin said to me, did you notice that nothing happened this week? And then I realized that we had 3 episodes in a row with nothing but setup and mild payoffs. Now,
no, I actually disagree. We had a Walker attack and Tarly defeated.
Let's talk about this Walker
with the obsidian knife. We had a wedding.
Wait. Let's go in order. Let's start with this.
No. You don't get to cherry pick your facts. We had an attack. We had a wedding. And we had the defeat of and hiring of an opposing army. Granted, we didn't have any battles. I'm sorry if what you want is a chase scene with the dragons. But we had a lot happen in this episode.
Did we? Let's start with the what should have been legendary and important was we saw a white attack Sam Tarly. Sam Tarly figure out that dragon glass obsidian kills them. We also had hands down the worst CG in the entire series to date. Would you debate that? That glass zombie was the most cartoonish thing that we've seen in the whole series up until now.
Didn't strike me. Didn't even think about it.
What?
Honestly, no. Did not strike me one way or another. Did not say, "Oh, this is really good CG" either. Didn't affect me in one way or the other.
Huh. All right.
I'll go back and look. Maybe I just was tired. My eyes get tired at night.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly willing to accept that I wasn't being very critical and didn't notice that it sucked.
It was cartoonish because like the zombie grabbed Sam's sword and you watched it dissolve into particle effects, and then he stabs it, and it felt like Hercules from the late 90s. It was
did not strike me that way at all.
All right, that's fine.
By the way, I'm laughing because Beatmaster, when you said nothing happened last, Beatmaster said not in Sans' bed.
Okay, now I will say, let's talk about what's awesome about this episode is the series continues to give the audience so much respect. The fact that you watched Tyrion's whore, I forget her name, come in.
Tyrion's whore. That's Tyrion's love.
Whatever.
But go ahead.
Yeah, she gets paid to play. That's all that matters. She whips back the bed, sees that there's no blood stain, and then scoops at a significant glance, and that's it. No hammering it over our heads at all.
No, that's what I mean. These were some of the best performances all season. I felt like Dinklage stole the show, right? His awkward attempt to reassure Sansa that just keeps blowing up in his face shouldn't be believable for that character, who we know is deft with words. But he totally sold me on it. And then he doesn't go and do the right thing by her. No, he gets shit-faced.
Yeah.
Embarrasses himself and makes her feel even more uncomfortable. And then when he's about to do when he's supposedly going to do the right thing, which he ends up doing, he's not going. No, he's like, well, I guess I got to do this. And then it just finally gets through his wine-soaked brain. I can't. I just can't do it. But what a great performance.
Yes, I will agree that the performances were great across the board. And we're going to enter that weird middle mushy ground where you and I talk about what the books happen type thing.
Before we do that, I just want to give Daenerys props too for another subtle performance when the guy is being very vulgar to her, and she just
super classy. Yes.
Oh, and it was so good. It wasn't like, oh, she's not reacting or doesn't understand. There was a glint of like, yeah, whatever.
Yes, okay, and there were moments of electricity, especially with the Hound and Arya. I thought were amazing. Like as she figures out, like keep in mind, for people who haven't read the books, this is an extraordinary season in that you have two characters that have previously been nothing but pure evil, and instead they turn into relatable characters, both the Hound and Jaime. And the fact that you get that experience, I think, is amazing.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's right. I totally forgot about the Hound scene with Arya, which I turned Eileen's head. I was expecting it, obviously, because I've read the books. But she was like, what? Huh? Didn't
That's downright relatable.
Change your opinion yet.
Relate to this monster? Yeah. Yeah, totally. What was the other thing? Okay, so we had North of the Wall. We had the Hound and Arya. And they talked about going to make it to the. Are we looking at 3 episodes in a row of weddings? Is that how we're going to round out this whole season?
Good question. Because you have Edmure Tully.
We had a wedding just now,
right? And we have Edmure Tully's coming up at the Freys,
right?
But we should also be having Cersei's wedding, correct?
Yeah. No. I'm thinking
Joffrey's.
Joffrey's wedding is how.
So actually, there's 4 because Cersei didn't get married yet.
Right. No, that's correct.
I'm pretending I don't know things.
Let's say there's going to be 4 weddings. Why not, Tom? Let's pretend like that'll happen. That's it's a spoiler.
I'm trying, okay? I'm trying.
Let's say there's 12 weddings and everybody gets married and they all live happily ever after. It's an amazing story. Look, it's wow, that sort of derailed everything. Look, I am still 100% on board. Every moment is electric and amazing. Man, it kind of, and I've said this before, I wish I could unremember all the books. Like at this point, I'm so on board and I so trust them that I just want to dive in and experience it for what they want to
it's kind of, even though I don't love what they're doing with Gendry, which is the other storyline we didn't talk about as much, I do like that that's different. That's new. Yes. The Gendry part. Obviously, the Davos part is still being true, but I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen now. Because Eileen was always looking at me about stuff. She's like, so she asked me a question about Melisandre, and I'm like, I don't know. This wasn't in the book, so.
Yeah, I believe I talked to Justin about this afterward, and the scene you saw with the leeches happened just with somebody else besides
with a different character.
I believe Gendry stayed with the Brothers Without Banners and just sort of ceased to be.
They just folded Gendry into that character. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Last we hear, Gendry's like making weapons or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that seems like something Gendry would do. Always making weapons like Gendry.
Gendry with his blacksmithing. Always smithing black things.
Totally smith.
Like swords.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you. We also saw Davos Seaworth working on his reading, learning.
Oh, that was cool. I liked that.
That was, I thought, really good.
I get what you're saying in all seriousness, that not a lot happened, but a lot happened. It just wasn't like the things that we know could happen.
And will happen. And then they'll be amazing when they do it or whatever. Yes. Continues to be awesome. Definitely watch it, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for enjoying the spoiler zone. We hope you've been properly spoiled. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. We hope you're nowhere near your original status. You're all spoiled up.
I hope you've been left out too long like a glass of milk.
I hope you're filthy, covered in like dragon poop.
With salmonella.